Coming up on Cronkite News, the Coyotes' pitch to play in Tempe draws mixed reviews. Will their plans get the green light? Up first, a look at the vote for the Coyotes' Entertainment District.
Spelling your way to success is harder than it looks. We'll give you an update on the Arizona 6th grader who made it to the National Spelling Bee.
And later on Break It Down, we'll examine why so many millennials are dealing with chronic disease.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Kyle Betts.
And I'm Lauren Green. Thanks for joining us. Tempe is the preferred next destination for the Arizona Coyotes, but does the city agree? Cronkite News reporter Ethan Ryder was at last night's city council meeting as an already long process between the city and the team progressed to the next stage.
In a meeting that lasted 8 hours, the Coyotes walked away with city approval to continue discussions on their proposed arena and entertainment district despite some objections. Sky Harbor argued concerns about building height and noise issues, while some residents were worried about added traffic and the cost at nearly $2 billion, given the financial history of Coyotes owner Alex Morella.
He didn't pay his bills in Glendale. He didn't pay his state taxes in Arizona. The NBA in 2011 didn't allow him to buy an NBA team. So why would we want to bring that kind of problem, serial problem, to Tempe?
But Tempe Mayor Corey Woods, who led discussions on Thursday, was pleased with the ownership in how Coyotes president and CEO Javier Gutierrez was open with the use of his money.
That's the kind of transparency that I want from people that we actually work with. If you don't want to show us the financials, that would immediately give me cold feet. But when you stand in front of a group of residents in a packed room like this and say, I am willing to open up my books, that gives me confidence moving forward, at least with negotiations.
While the council voted 5-2 to proceed, Woods made it clear that this isn't even close to being over.
It could be the start of a very fruitful partnership for both sides. I mean, clearly we're kind of a long ways away at this point. There's a lot of work that would have to be done and a lot of conversation and negotiation to get to that place.
The yes is certainly a step in the right direction for the Coyotes, but there are a lot of questions that still need to be answered. For now, after ending their 19-year run at Gila River Arena in Glendale, they'll spend the next 2 seasons at ASU's new multi-purpose arena with an additional option for a third. In the studio, Ethan Ryder, Cronkite News.
Greyhawk Golf Club in Scottsdale had a busy 3 weeks playing host to the NCAA Golf Championships. Cronkite News reporter Connor Cox takes a look at how Greyhawk pulled off making NCAA history.
Getting a golf course to be in tournament shape is no easy feat. Greyhawk had to prep for 156 golfers 2 weeks in a row, while manipulating the course to be within NCAA guidelines for the women and men.
The course is amazing. Ernie Pock and the whole team at Greyhawk has got it just in perfect shape. So I think it's a little bit, the rough seems a little bit thicker this year. There's a little more Bermuda in the greens. I know they'll have them firm and fast for when they need to be.
The women play the rough at 2 inches and have a wetter green. But only 1 week later, the men need a 3-inch rough and a faster and firmer green. Greyhawk Director of Agronomy Ernie Pock explained the science behind the course conditions.
2 weeks prior to the event, I started increasing the wetting agents. I apply 2 types of wetting agents on the golf course. One that we call a driver or a mover that actually moves water deeper into the soil, and then one we call an actual holder. Molecularly, it holds water differently within the soil. So I got one that can move water deeper and one that holds and keeps the water in the soil.
The initial 60 days starts with seeding the course with excess winter grass to hold on until the tournament ends. Then, Golf Channel builds their camera towers, and cables weave their way around the 18 holes. In the final week of prep, you get all your flags and box advertising finished up.
I kind of use the analogy of like dancing on the dance floor. Everybody's got their own spot, and we just try not to step on each other around the dance floor. My team's got their responsibilities. Golf Channel, of course, has got their responsibilities for setting up the towers. ASU's got their responsibilities for setting up all the other stuff, the food and beverage and stuff.
The feat of hosting a national championship is daunting, but for Greyhawk Golf Club, it's getting easier. For the first time in history, the national championship will be played at the same course 3 years in a row. In Scottsdale, Connor Cox, Cronkite News.
Both ASU golf teams will have one more shot at trying to win a national championship in their backyard before the tournament moves to Carlsbad, California.
The Women's College World Series began Thursday with 3 Pac-12 teams competing in Oklahoma City. The University of Arizona faced off against Oklahoma State in their first appearance under new head coach Caitlin Lowe.
The University of Arizona dropped its first game of the Women's College World Series to Oklahoma State in a 4-2 loss, leading 2-1 heading into the bottom of the 6th inning. Carly Petty sent a 3-run shot over the center field fence to secure the victory. But both of these teams had great support systems heading into today. Mike Condrea made an appearance with Jenny Finch for the University of Arizona, and Oklahoma State brought dirt from its own field.
We talk after wins and losses, and that's the greatest thing about him. You know, he's there when it's hard, and he's there in the good times as well. And he will always, you know, I will always probably annoy him too much and ask him too many things, but it's just amazing to have his support, and he's been with this team throughout this entire season.
Us not getting our heads down is the biggest thing. We played an amazing game, and it was one pitch that changed the difference. And you take away that pitch, and it's a different game. And I think the great thing is that we're an amazing team. We're meshing when we need to mesh. Our pitchers are still doing amazing. It's not anything, there's nothing lacking.
Oklahoma State moves on to play Florida on Saturday. Meanwhile, Arizona will face Oregon State in an elimination game on Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In Oklahoma City, Ashley Stevens, Cronkite News.
Arizona has already won 2 of 3 in Pac-12 play against Oregon State this season, and we'll see how head coach Caitlin Lowe and her team bounce back after their loss against Oklahoma State yesterday.
In 2020, ASU completed renovations to what is now called Sun Devil Soccer and Lacrosse Stadium. The high-quality stadium has attracted international teams who need facilities like these. This week, ASU hosted the Uruguayan national team. They were preparing for a friendly against Mexico. Top European stars like Edison Cavani and Darwin Nunez, along with the head coach, were on hand for the closed training sessions. ASU soccer head coach Graham Winkworth says sharing their stadium with international teams helps not just him, but the program.
And teams want to train on, then future players, future Sun Devils, see that we have a facility that world-class players and teams want to train on, then it really excites them and say, oh, well, if it's good enough for this level player, then man, it would be awesome to play in a facility like that. And so it certainly helps from a recruiting standpoint as well.
Uruguay's practice paid off as they beat Mexico 3-0 last night as both teams prepare to play in the World Cup this fall.
There was another kind of competition going on last night, and that was the National Spelling Bee. An 11-year-old from Prescott was one of the last spellers standing, and Cronkite News reporter Daisy Gonzalez-Perez has her story from our Washington bureau.
After years of study and a week of competition, Aaliyah Alpert's run at the Scripps National Spelling Bee came down to this.
She's 11 years old, a 6th grade student.
Your word is Ajivaka.
A-J-I-V-A-K-A, Ajivaka. With that, the Prescott homeschooler was eliminated from the finals. She ended up tied for 9th place from a field of spellers that began with 229 on Tuesday. But Aaliyah, the youngest speller in the finals, took it in stride.
I'm just so glad that I was able to come, and I'm glad that I didn't go out until the last night. So I was really able to experience everything.
After Aaliyah left the stage, the experience included the first championship speed round in bee history. After finalists Harmini Logan and Vikram Raju were deadlocked for 6 rounds, each was given 90 seconds to correctly spell as many words as possible. Harini, 14, of San Antonio, ultimately won with 22 correct words to Vikram's 15, making her the 2022 Scripps National Spelling Bee champion. Aaliyah said she was just happy she was able to share the stage with them.
I felt really lucky. I felt like other better spellers than me were going out and I wasn't.
But Aaliyah, who has a few more years of eligibility, is already reminiscing about this year's bee when asked what was her favorite word.
It was probably trevally since I was not quite sure, and I got into finals because it's so awesome when you're not quite sure about a word, but you hear Judge Mary say, that is correct. That's like the best part of the whole bee.
Leah said she'll probably take next year off, but she's already considering a return in 2024. At National Harbor, Daisy Gonzalez-Perez, Cronkite News.
And in case you were wondering the correct spelling of the word that eliminated Aaliyah in the finals, Ajivika, it's A-J-I-V-I-K-A. And yeah, we had to look that one up first.
The city of Phoenix is putting plans in place to handle the continued drought conditions and shrinking water supply. Phoenix has declared a Stage 1 water alert and activated its drought management plan. This is in response to mandatory reductions of the Colorado River and the deeper cuts expected in the future. Stage 1 is centered around increased efforts to educate customers about the emergency and how they can help with conservation efforts. During these early stages, all water use reductions are still voluntary. Let's turn it over to Samir to tell us how high the temperature is climbing this week.
Looking at the futurecast, we see Tropical Storm Alex move west to east from the Gulf of Mexico into the Atlantic, and that will mean travel delays and or cancellations in the Florida area. But in terms of weather in Phoenix, we're going to see cloudless skies and sunny weather over the next 3 days. So what does that mean in terms of high temperatures? We're going to see a high of 102 in Phoenix, 76 in Flagstaff, and 81 in the Grand Canyon. Perfect weather to go hiking. Looking at the overnight forecast, it's going to be 101 during rush hour, but dropping down to 90 degrees on mostly cloudy, overcast skies. Perfect weather to walk the dog. For the next 3 days, it's going to remain around the average, 102 to 105, and then jumping to a high temperature of 112, the hottest temperature this year on Saturday. I'm Samir Mullah from the Cronkite Weather Center.
Up next, we're going to Los Angeles for the Cronkite Sports Report. Skateboarding is a new Olympic sport, but it's still dominated by men. We'll introduce you to one skater, hoping to flip that statistic.
And that's the way it is. Monday, September.
Newscasting has changed a lot since the time of Walter Cronkite. That's why here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, you can learn the studio production skills of today in real time. Whether you want to work audio, direct, technical direct, design graphics, or you can even run the floor. It's all part of the Television Production and Graphics Lab here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. We're going on in 3, 2...
Did you know newsrooms today are looking for bilingual journalists? Cronkite Noticias prepares you to cover diverse communities. In Cronkite Noticias, you will obtain an unforgettable experience.
Nopales como este van a tumbar.
Cronkite Noticias.
And develop your skills with the latest technology.
Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications Phoenix Sports Bureau provides students with hands-on learning experiences and opportunities in sports journalism. From covering local high schools, colleges, and the pros, students get the opportunity to go live from our Facebook shows covering local, collegiate, and pro sports in the Valley. From digital reporting, broadcast, social media, and producing, there's opportunities for all. For more, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. I'm Madison Thomas with your Cronkite Sports Report from Los Angeles. Gender inequality is an issue in skateboarding. Last year, a skate park guide published an article saying less than a quarter of all skateboarders are women. Cronkite Sports reporter Liam Barrett was able to catch up with a skateboarder who was helping change that narrative.
16-year-old Meredith Lowenstein is one of the few women skaters at her local park. But that hasn't stopped her from doing what she loves.
99% of the time I'm pretty outnumbered. I don't really mind it though, because I'm usually friends with people at the skate park. I've been able to skate with some girl skaters. It's just definitely more rare.
Despite now being an Olympic sport, Skate Park Guide says just 16% of serious skateboarders are women. It takes courage to be a female skateboarder, and that courage impacts others.
I think that seeing that someone else can do it makes them think that they'll be able to one day.
older girls do it and be really successful, whether it's on social media or in real life. I think that's a push for a lot of younger girls to get into it.
It takes a specific type of person to enact change. Trailblazing isn't for the weak-minded, something her dad says she's never been.
She is definitely free-spirited and strong-willed, which I think lends itself well to the sport that she's involved in. But she's a little bit rebellious too, and I think that's to be expected with skateboarding.
The stereotype in the sport is to be rebellious, so it only makes sense for a woman skateboarder to change the status quo, one trick at a time. In Manhattan Beach, Liam Barrett, Cronkite News.
The Paris Summer Olympics will have skateboarding for both women and men. This is the second Olympics in the row that will have the sport. UCLA softball is currently playing a must-win game in the Women's College World Series. They are currently playing against Northwestern. They fell 2-7 yesterday against Texas in the first round of play. Shortstop Brianna Perez said their coach offers some advice going into this next game.
Just lucky that the bracket's built this way and ready to fight tomorrow. That's what our game's all about, is just what you do next. That's what Coach I always says. It's not what happens, it's what you do next. And I think this team has a lot of fight in us.
Phoenix Mercury player Brittany Griner has been in contact with other WNBA players through emails and letters. She has been detained in Russia for over 100 days now. Los Angeles Sparks forward Amanda Zawibi says she will be changing her number to 42 in her honor. The Mercury will be hosting the Sparks this Sunday in Phoenix. That's it for your Cronkite Sports Report from Los Angeles. Back to you.
If you've been wanting something new to read this summer, soon the books could be coming to you. Earlier this week, Phoenix City Council approved the purchase of a Bookmobile. The council agreed to spend up to $400,000 from COVID relief funds for the purchase. The 38-foot-long bus is expected to hold more than 3,000 books. Also on the bus will be audio-visual items as well as public computers. As of right now, the expected location of the bus will be at 67th Avenue and Lower Buckeye Road.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org. Next on Break It Down, we